right. Thank you. Thank you, Los Angeles. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the If I Knew You Better podcast. That dim applause and honking horns that you hear. Not so, LA, you're the best. I love you guys being back. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. Sadly, I cannot claim that as for me. That applause that you can hear, depending on how good your headphones are, that is the sound of people up and down this neighborhood and across LA, whooping and hollering and making noise for all the essential workers who are doing their jobs while we're in a stay-at-home through July now. And I'm not mad at that. I'm sad about the economy. And I'm sad that your plans to go enjoy frivolous social fun with no regard for others' health are slightly imposed upon. I'll get you a crying towel, but guess what? I don't care about none of that, and we're going to talk to a guy who ain't got time for that himself. Today is a very special day because we are joined by none other than Mr. Kevin effing Geiger. Kevin, how are you, sir?
Hey, man, I'm doing better, actually. Thank you so much for having me again. And you're looking good. You're looking better than ever.
Well,
a shadow of your former self.
Yes, yes. Thank you. We're striving toward that, and we'll chit-chat about that a bit toward the end of the show today.
Yes.
Dear listener and dear Kevin, dear Geiger, we have really three topics that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the new normal as of now. We're going to talk about some new thoughts, what's on our minds lately. And lastly, new directions. What are you looking forward to? Part of mine is about losing more weight, but I'm happy with where I am. But so, yeah, we're going to organize all of this under a principle. You had a great idea, which was that we should call this so-and-so. What are we calling this episode of the Fretful Laowai, Kevin?
This is the Fretful Laowai Rear Window Edition, and I can't take any credit for that because you were the one who first came up with that reference, very witty reference, in one of your Facebook posts from the last week or so.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that, and I'll take it. But I will say that you were the one to say let's have that be the banner. So it's a virtual fist bump and agreement. Good partnership. Bump. I like it. Well, how are things there in the lovely Taipei? I see your photos. What are your days looking like now in Kevin Geiger land?
Well, it's interesting because I'm actually looking out of the rear window right now, and I can see my daughter Claire's school from the apartment that we're staying in.
Yeah.
And we just started our younger daughter, Emma, in preschool. So we've got Claire now, who's going to be 5 in a couple weeks, in kindergarten here in Taipei. And then we have Emma in a preschool. We've been looking for a preschool for Emma for a month or two. And because we were coming in mid-semester and there was concern about people who had just recently arrived in Taipei, putting their kids into school, that it was really hard to find a place that either had room or would take her. And so in terms of my days, they were incredibly fragmented. Claire was in school since beginning of April. It's one of the only regions in the world that has schools open, although America is going to dive headlong into that adventure, I think.
Dive?
Maybe less.
Dive. You said dive. I thought you said dive because we're going to do more.
No, I hope I didn't say dive, but
no, you did.
Maybe it was a Freudian slip. My microphone's, for the listeners, my microphone's a little bit wonky today, so we'll see how it goes.
That was for the wordplay, that's all.
Yes, exactly. And who knows, maybe that, I hope not.
Let's hope.
But Emma was on our hands 24/7, and that was great. I mean, we were spending a lot of time with her, and really her English and her Chinese has just, raced ahead at the age of 2. But trying to get any kind of work done at all, and you and I both work independently, developing content, etc., was pretty much impossible. And I've been trying to be easy on myself and tell my wife to be easy on herself about not expecting too much. If we get anything done at all, any given day, that's great.
Sure.
Right.
Take that
under the circumstances, we'll take it as a win. Yes, exactly. But we're really itching to dig in a little deeper. So we finally got a preschool that took Emma. She just started this past week. I think we're into, she's been there 4 days now. End of week 1. And it's been fantastic. My wife and I had an opportunity to flatten the curve, so to speak, and get past.
Took me a second. That's your little metaphor. Okay, all right. We'll see if Win approves this message. Hi, Win.
That's a complete. It's a complete euphemism.
We like to disguise. We like to vaguely disguise sexual innuendo whenever possible.
Yes, exactly. But more importantly, I shouldn't say more importantly. Equally important.
For it. Yeah.
flattening the curve.
Instead of Netflix
Is
and
that we
chill,
were
hey,
able
baby, you want to come over and flatten the curve?
flatten the curve. We were able to get back to some more meaningful chunks of work. So I had been, I've always been a proponent of the 90-minute deep work session approach, where you really just get into like a 90-minute zone, then you take a break because your productivity tends to decline after those 90 minutes. But even finding 90 minutes was impossible. So now, in terms of my day, the great thing has been I've got a rhythm now that I just started this week, and I hope to continue, which is three. It's like an abundance of time. 3 90-minute work sessions per day, which I never was able to do before.
That's actually pretty good. That's like 3. That's either one complicated project you can have a whack at thrice, or that's 3 projects you can make a real chunk of commitment to every day. Yeah, no, it's good.
Exactly. Good. So what I do, and this isn't really a model for anybody to follow. I'm just sharing it because, why not? Everybody's got their own circumstances, and some people can do 12 hours.
Maybe somebody will relate to this, though. Maybe this is maybe somebody's hearing this idea and they're going to go, "Oh, that could work for me." So prior
to having Emma back in school, I was only able to maybe get one 90-minute session in early in the morning, like from 5 in the morning to 7:30, and after that, the day was blown. I was just on with the kids, getting them where they needed to be, and watching them, and so forth. Now I get that 90-minute chunk in still from like 5:30 to about 7:30 or so, 7, and within that 2-hour window, I'm getting my 90 minutes of just some drawing, some reading, some journaling, just kind of waking up and getting ready, right, mentally for the day. And then from about 7 in the morning to 9, that 2-hour chunk is waking the kids up, getting them dressed, getting breakfast in them, and then getting them to their schools. After that, between 9 and 12, somewhere in that 3-hour window, I've got my 90-minute chunk of any given project, writing, drawing, what have you. And that's always the most important thing. So I make sure that I get the most important thing done during that time.
Yeah.
So if the rest of the day goes down the toilet,
you got the big thing done.
Yeah, that's in the bag. Yeah. And then the afternoon, if I can, I get one more session in. That's gold, right? I either continue with what I was doing in the morning, or because I do have multiple irons in the fire, another project, or if somebody wants to do a call or whatever, I tend to try to leave the afternoon a little more flexible, so that the unexpected, which always occurs, can be addressed. Sure. And oftentimes too, that's for errands and things, getting groceries, whatever, mundane stuff. And then I'm picking up the kids around dinner time, feeding them, and then trying to play with them in the evening and keep them off of the television until they go to bed. So that's kind of the rhythm of the day. Is a early morning work session, a late morning work session, and then an afternoon work session. And so far this week, so good. So I'm quite happy about that. And I know you've been burning it too in terms of the projects you've got going on and the work you've been doing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and I'll. It's funny because how I've been accomplishing my stuff is just in general is similar to what you just described. I mean, I know the 90. I know that as a model, actually, like a 90-minute chunk, and people have different versions of that they. I know some people who do 5-hour block, where it's like the world can screw off these 5 hours, and they're able to just laser focus, and then they're able to be crazy productive in that 5 hours. But and then they let the other mess of the day, they take they take their breaks before and after, and they're checking emails and catching up on things that don't matter. But for me, what I notice is that I tend to get in these grooves. I mean, the thing that I think is maybe analogous to lots of jobs. I mean, this applies to probably almost anything. I mean, even if somebody's a manual laborer and say that they say they're a landscaper and they got a giant lawn. It's like, okay, well, you got to mow the grass, we got to trim the hedges, we got to weed the flower garden, and we got to put the topsoil. You got these things to do. It's like all projects. Like every one of those is a project, and so you're project management. So whether you're a garbage collector trying to make the route, or whether you're, you trying to manage your day, I mean, it's a similar idea. And so my little project management thing, I noticed that I tend to do, because we have this in common, I think, although we're wired a bit differently, plus your reality's so different with kids and the wife, but and just your kind of you kind of twitch at a faster rate than me, as anybody who has heard both of us would guess, and as anybody knows us knows. But for me, I tend to do 1 hour bursts. So this is a thing because Susie, got me, best girlfriend ever, by the way. Susie got me the Apple Watch for my birthday back in January, and among the features is the Do Not Disturb, and it's all set up so it turns your phone, your computer. It's like it's either on or off. You can toggle it on the watch, and so you can go to flip it on, and it's either turn it on until tomorrow morning or turn it on for an hour. Or if it's on, you can turn it off, And so I do that, turn that thing on. So if I feel like I'm really getting into a groove, I'm like, oh, let me do this, and I'll do 1 hour. And then I mentally, I don't have a stopwatch running, and I'm not seeing it or whatever. But it's funny, I notice that I tend to work toward knowing that in about an hour I'm going to get interrupted. Because
your internal clock
off, then it's like, bzz, bzz, bzz. Bzz, 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 it's in beeps and dings and buzzes, and it's like all the things coming in. So I kind of tend to those 1 hour bursts, but there's a thing that we do which will continue, but modify in this way from my point of view, which is talk about speculative this and that, and I think we're pretty good about we don't get out ahead of our skis too much. You and I are pretty circumspect about. We do offline for sure, because that's how you figure out how you blue sky what you hope happens and this and that, but also what's the outside and what about the version where everything's on fire? What does that look like? Okay, Kevin, that version looks like this. And you're there saying, "I told you so." No, I'm just kidding. That's just a little joke between us. Yeah, no. Don't read that.
Okay.
You can defend yourself in a moment. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I left the window open, so that's a ghetto bird right there. I left the window open for some color.
Man,
so that's a little
I kind of miss those.
Yeah, a little LA's finest, baby.
A little LA.
That's what they do. Welcome to Los Angeles. That's the popo. That's the flying popo right there. They're on the way to spread their mission, peace and goodwill in another part of the city. If it's going to hover, then I'll have to shut the thing here. Good Lord.
Wow, is it coming into the house?
I'm being quiet. You hear how... it's like I'm vibrating. When that was overhead, I was like my chest was like the low bass. It's not translating through the mic. Yeah, the low bass of that was like on my chest. So hopefully that's not too irritating, dear listener. Hopefully you enjoy the color of life, which was my conscious choice for today. So the thing I was getting at is not to playfully make you on the defensive, but to say that I tend to be very focused on on this show in terms of talking about things that are in the works. What's the new normal like? That's really loud. Okay, hang on, let me shut the door.
Is that hot Batmobile that was parked across the street?
There was a car that looked
it
looked like a poor man's Batmobile, except that it was still it's still a cheap, expensive car.
Poor man.
Yeah, it's still relatively speaking, it was Bruce Wayne's beater. No, that was something else. So it's probably
Dude, I'm digging the local LA color. I mean, I've been away I haven't been in the US for a year now, and I really miss that stuff. So thanks for opening the window.
Sure. Well, the
rear window.
Exactly. The rear window was open. Well, now we're closing the rear window for the sake of just being able to talk about other things for people to tune out. But yeah, but the last sidebar was back in my old place when I lived here prior to China. I lived just 2 blocks east of here, and Justin Bieber was dating, wrong verb, but he was dating some girl that lived across the street from me in like a condo.
Was Selena Gomez?
No, it wasn't her, but I'm sure she has a house in the hills. It was a nice condo, but it was a condo. But he I'm sure he's got a ton of cars, and I think he moved back to Canada if I'm not mistaken. But he, at the time, he was driving this orange Lamborghini, and he had the sound system that you would expect Justin Bieber to have in a Lamborghini. He had that kind of sound system. And he really loved to roll up around, 3 a.m. on a Tuesday and just wake the entire neighborhood up. And it was typically some dancey remix of his own stuff. Sometimes it was other stuff.
Nice.
But yeah. Anyway, I'll stop there in case one of his attorneys hear this. And I won't tell you about the condition he appeared to be in while he was driving. I will say that I wouldn't have been driving a supercar. At 3 a.m. Myself, but yeah,
you probably didn't even know where he was.
Yeah. New normal for me has been heavily work focused, and basically everybody's who listens to this knows about our movie in Paris. Good news is business on that's actually proceeding pretty nicely at this point. Even you and I will have a bit of a catch up after this, but that's actually, basically COVID-19. Of course, I mean it whacked everybody in sensitive areas, and the issue with this film is that it needs to at least shoot a little bit. We need to overlap Fall Fashion Week in Paris. There won't be one this year. There won't be a real one in the spring because there's basically no way we'll have a vaccine. Even if we do, which would be great, to be ready for the spring, they would have to be working right now. And instead, most of these companies have laid people off. It's not happening in the spring. If anything happens, it'll be a limited presentation. The models may be wearing masks. It won't look normal. So we need a vaccine.
That'll be interesting, though.
It'll be interesting in a way, but in terms of shooting our film, we do have a little bit of it's a decently budgeted indie, but it's not the kind of film where we can recreate the Dior show. We need to go to the Dior show. Yeah. And you can't really recreate it if you had $100 million budget, and we're nowhere. We're not. Right. We're a small fraction of that. So the point is that we need to have a real fashion week to be able to shoot, and that ain't going to happen until 1 year from this month.
Yes.
So meanwhile, I've got 2 films in New Zealand that are chugging along, which you're acquainted with. And at this point, one of them, if we're able to, New Zealand will be one of the first places in the world to open up for stuff. I mean, they've already contained, there's no cases now. They've eliminated this. So all things being equal, between the development and finance process and casting and such, we should be able to shoot that film by their seasons are backwards, of course, because of, their Southern Hemisphere. But I'm going to use Western references, spring next year. So
that's awesome.
A year from now, like earlier than now. So this is kind of late spring, like early spring next year, we could theoretically shoot that other picture could just now go first. Then we go do Paris movie if we're so fortunate. Then the third movie, go back to New Zealand, and then I'm going to live there in a little cottage and smoke some pipeweed.
Well, it's actually a great place to live because sort of apropos of nothing, there was an article I was reading recently that said that New Zealand, you may know this already, it is the go-to territory for billionaire pandemic panic rooms. Basically, you've got,
I read that article a few weeks ago when that came out.
300 at least of these underground bunkers of varying levels of bling, right? Some are, you got your basic $4 million model, and then it goes up from there. And you want a bowling alley, you want a movie theater underground, what have you. And some people apparently already bailed. There were some Silicon Valley types who already got the hell out of Dodge when countries were closing their borders and wanted to get into New Zealand and get into their bunker before New Zealand locked off the country to foreigners, which it currently is. So it made me kind of laugh, but also I was like, you've got varying levels of that. You've got, poorer people who are not billionaires who have their bug out bags and their bug out plans. So this is not anything that's limited to any socioeconomic strata. But when you mentioned New Zealand, it was like, if you're going to go anywhere, that's probably not a bad place. I'm lucky I'm here in Taiwan. New Zealand's doing very well. And we can talk more about if people continue to do well and what happens when things start to mix. But I'm really happy to hear that the New Zealand projects are moving forward. And
thank you. It's very encouraging, and there are several things at play right this second that I don't want to jinx by even referencing. So when we do the next one of these, I'll be able to definitively say some things, either yay or nay. But but wrapping up my piece of the new normal thing for me is simply I'm here in my actor buddy John O'Kenyon's place that I'm crashing in Los Angeles while he's stuck back home in New Zealand, actually. And just kind of enjoying doing my thing. I've been super busy with my pilot script. I've been getting this TV thing that I wrote polished up, and so writing a lot and producing a lot. I'll talk about that in the New Directions part. I'll talk about that at the end.
Cool.
But that's me, man. But what about you in terms of so that's like what's up in terms of thoughts? What's in your noggin these days?
And sort of as a bridge from what we were just talking about, occurred to me that, okay, I'm living in Taipei now. You transition from, I'm still in somebody else's apartment.
You just have an expensive storage unit in Beijing.
In Beijing, yeah, all my stuff's back in Beijing, stuff, money, etc. There's a lot logistically and legally to hash through, but I've been here almost half a year now, so I'm here. I guess I'm living in Taipei, and that was really the switch that flicked in my mind for everything from getting my kids into schools to just getting back to work and so forth. And you're doing your version of the same thing at your buddy's house, and I'm sure mentally as well. The difference between, okay, I'm in my friend's house temporarily versus, okay, I'm here in this house working on my stuff in this place. Sure. It's a significant psychological switch to flick, because it enables you to process and to knuckle down and say, all right, here I go back. My home is where I am. Home is where I happen to be at any given time.
Exactly.
And so that's been on my mind. But in terms of new thoughts, what is this world going to be like going forward? I just recently reread World War Z.
Yeah,
which is the Max.
Which I've never read. I know the book's supposed to be amazing. I did enjoy the movie, but I know it was a mess relative to the book.
It's not even really the film. It's got the same title, but the book, 2006, I believe, is a fictional account of a UN. There's a UN worker. He was played by Brad Pitt in the movie, and much more action oriented in the film. In the book, he's basically interviewing people, different walks of life, different countries, and asking them about their experience during this 10-year zombie pandemic, global pandemic. And the amazing thing is that, and really kind of, uncannily prescient for a 2006 novel, is that on the socio-political front in the book is very much about, it's if you don't like zombie stories or zombies in general, or you're sick of zombie tropes, this is completely unlike any other zombie.
That's what everybody says. That's basically, that was the virus, that was the bug. But it's really about the societal issues that arise from dealing with this and worldwide thing.
So many parallels to how China's dealing with things, how the U.S. deals with things in the book, and then compared to what's actually happening now. Different countries in terms of their political structures, their social structures, how well they fared or didn't fare. I mean, it's a mess for everybody, but there are winners and losers coming out of this. And it's really interesting to see how close he came to pretty much predicting, what's happening now.
Did he get some of the winners and losers right?
Well, for example, the U.S. has this hubris, like, oh, we can handle this. This is no problem. We got it. We don't really need to prepare anything. Watch what we do, and then we just get hammered. And there's
I wonder what that'd be like. I can't relate to that. What would that be like? Yeah, okay.
And it might be a little bit like what we're seeing now. People who don't take it seriously and then panic and exactly.
If you vote for a third party,
and he said,
"You are dead to me." Go ahead.
Yes, I fully concur, man. But just to close on this, Max Brooks in an interview, this was before the coronavirus pandemic, but in an interview he said,
he'd be the writer of the thing. He's the writer. Max Brooks wrote it.
Yes, so Max Brooks is the writer, of the book.
That's helpful information. Go ahead.
He said the most terrifying thing for me is not vampires, werewolves, great white sharks. He said, you kind of have to go in horror movies or horror stories. You have to go out of your way to put yourself in the path of those things. And then he said, I have no sympathy for you. But he said, a virus. He mentioned, he says, like a flu. He said a flu pandemic or something like that. Something that comes after you and is just inexorable and mindless and doesn't stop until it's laid waste to everything. He said, that for me is truly terrifying. And that was the inspiration for the 2006 book, World War Z, and it's so much of what we're living through now. And then, of course, the aftermath. So what's it going to be like socio-politically in different countries in and of themselves? What's China going to be like? What's America turning into? And then what happens when countries start to mix again? So we mentioned earlier that New Zealand, things are going pretty well there. Here in Taiwan, things are really under control. There's no community transmission, 400 some cases total, 7 deaths. I still wear a mask when I'm close to people, but otherwise I walk around. I don't have it on if I'm not near somebody. My kids are in school, one of the only places in the world where schools are open safely, USA, safely, not just open, but safely and securely for the children open. What's going to happen if and when countries and territories start readmitting foreign nationals. So New Zealand made the announcement they're pretty much not going to let anybody in until the end of the year at least, and then they'll revisit, their policy.
Right.
At some point, when you have places where herd immunity, either through design or through negligence, has been the rule of law, and then places like in Taiwan and New Zealand, other places where there hasn't been the community transmission, and so most people never had the virus. What happens when those societies start mixing? And is it going to be like, when the Europeans came to North America with blankets full of smallpox and wiped out the Indians? Is it going to be something ugly like that? Is there going to be a way to manage it where they start letting people in and they say, okay, anybody who comes in, you've got a 2-week quarantine. If that doesn't fit with your plan, sorry, but that's the only way you're getting in. If you're no more short hops, no more quick business trips, that's done. Is it going to be something like that? That's what I'm curious to see, and not just in a theoretical way, but a practical way, because my family and I have always traveled a lot for work, for life. Sure. And now we've been hunkered down. This is the longest time I've been in any one place in my later adult life. Like ever since I met Wen and got married we've always been on the move every couple months or so, flying somewhere. And we've been here almost 6 months. So, which is great, but at some point you got to go. And for me, I think I might have one more 30-day extension on my visa. I think they're going to give one more, but then that'll be it. And I think I have to leave at that point. That will be maybe early July, unless something else is announced. Who knows? So there's always this level of uncertainty. But what I am certain of is that at some point, you yourself as well, you've got stuff in Beijing. At some point, you got to go and get the stuff. Either have it sent to you or go get it yourself. So I think a lot about that. And that's kind of a sloppy core dump. But these are the things that when I'm lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, these are the things that are keeping me awake. Is okay. How am I going to do that? What's going to happen with this? Are we going to take the kids with us or not? If all of that stuff. Sure.
Well, I was just going to say, it's funny because my thoughts are related to really the same thing, because again, there's people who listen a lot or are China folk know these mechanics, but I would say that the majority of people listening to this are neither. And if they haven't heard us talk about it before, the fact is they don't know. But you typically pay your rent in seasons. You pay like seasonally, quarterly. You typically pay 3 months out of whack. And my next and final season of rent is due June 15th, because I moved mid-month when I moved in. So September 15th is my end of lease. And so now, so it's stay.
So you've got till September.
So it's stay at home in LA. But here's the thing, and this isn't the thing I want to, I'm going to say this, and it's not the main point. It's stay at home until through July here. You can, and I could technically, if the flight existed from the States, which they're not to Beijing. There may be a few, but the point is flights are still very, very, very limited. It's basically shut down. In terms of getting into Beijing, I don't know if you could fly there directly from Taipei, but I do know, and I'm guessing you probably can at this point. But you can get into Beijing, and there's not even a mandatory quarantine. I mean, they check you when you show up. They're going to check you, and if they're going to question the hell out of you. And because I'm in my WeChat group with all my American expats in Beijing specifically, 500 strong. I'm following this. I wrote the admin going, hey man, because the rule is that once you don't live there for a certain amount of time, you're supposed to be booted. I'm like, dude, don't boot me, because I'll be back when I can, and I need to stay current. Because things have changed. I've watched it change so much, and it's always evolving. So it's like, that's how I'm keeping up with what I'm going to have to deal with when I get back. So what I'm saying is that it will be theoretically possible to go back pretty soon. If you were already somewhere in the mainland, you could get to Beijing relatively easy right now.
Oh yeah.
But in terms of getting back into Taiwan, I'm sure is your bigger concern after you've been in the mainland. I imagine. Well,
exactly, because Taiwan has a ban on foreigners entering the country, so they're not kicking anybody out.
Exactly.
But if I leave, I can't come back in.
Come back, right? And so that's a valid thing in terms of long term. So in other words, it is at least, if it's into July with LA, and given the flights are what they are, and we'll see We'll see about a resurgence. We'll see about all these things we don't know about. But theoretically, I could maybe get back in August. And at this point, kind of my best case scenario would be get back with like 4 to 6 weeks before my move out to have plenty of time to take my time, give certain things away, sell certain things, pack certain things for that one giant.
Get your criminal record.
And then, well, okay, I don't have one of those, but then,
I should say, let me correct that. Get your certificate of no criminal record. That's what I meant to say.
Well, it doesn't matter to me though. I don't have. Why do I need that?
Before you leave China.
Yeah, I've never had a visa in China. So
piece of advice to anybody listening who is. Well, let me tell you why you want to. Before you leave China, make sure you go to your local police station, you give them your current address, and you get a printout. It's your certificate of no criminal record.
Oh, okay.
Just have that because when you go for future employment, so they ask for it anywhere in the world, especially if you're teaching. So maybe you're not, but teaching especially, they say, hey, so where's so you got this. How come, what about that 10-year gap in China? You have that? No, you don't. Sorry, we can't hire you. So you want to make sure you get that. And if you don't get it while you're in China, it's really hard to get it once you've left China. Well, so that's what I'm referring to.
I appreciate that's word to the wise, and probably not a teacher, and I never worked for anybody there, and I work for myself, so I'll still hire.
It may never apply to you ever.
I'm sleeping with the boss. In case of me, I'm sleeping with the boss. So, but I appreciate that note.
I hear you, man.
I will take that advice. But so the thing that I'm trying to get at is that I've come to I've known for a long time this was a possibility, but I've started to accept the likely reality that I will have to have, again, best girlfriend in the world, Susie, oversee. Have her, by herself, like, get on the video call, like when she toured the other day to show me my plant was dead, sadly.
Right.
Like this.
Oh.
She wanted
I need that.
The stem is still green. The leaves are all dead. Stem's green, and the roots looked okay. I had her fill it up. So she'll probably last a little while longer. But anyway, I may have to basically get her to help supervise a pack and move out. And I may not get back because the next destination for me is New Zealand.
Yeah.
And if I can't get in there, I don't know when people such as, again, my friend whose home I'm in, when he can come back, he has a few other things he's got to take care of.
Yeah.
Once things are all open, he's been approved for his U.S. green card, and he has to deal with the U.S. Embassy down there. And he had his appointment for a Tuesday, and then on a Monday was the day that they officially shut everything down there. So he was going in for his final appointment of, here you go, shake hands, welcome to the U.S., and let's take your picture, and we'll, and here's take a picture of you in front of an American and New Zealand flag, and here's your paper, and blah, blah. He got blocked on that a day before, that was a day after the shutdown. So anyway, so for me, it's pretty bittersweet because I had Susie help me, pay the previous quarter of rent that I just, the entire season, just had us have had this. I'm halfway. Well, I'm 2/3 through. I'm 2 months through one that I haven't been there. So here's the thing though. The new thought, besides that, this is a little more relatable and broad. And it maybe leads into our new directions, our final section of this. So for me, the thoughts I've been having have been related to, again, how fortunate I've been with being able to travel and have this, creating this for me. I mean, when I left LA, and I'm starting to see all these reminders, Facebook has the way back thing of this day a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yep.
So
6 years ago.
Yesterday, I think it was yesterday. It was yesterday, the day before, was 7 days before I got on the plane to move to China 4 years ago. So I was just shy of 4 years when I had to bail. So the thought was, I did a little calculation because although I have been crazy busy and tons of calls, and I've been being interviewed a fair amount lately, and I've done a lot of interviews, and plus just, it's work, and it's great. So happy that with a laptop, a phone, internet connection, and a decent mic, I could do my whole thing, like my whole world. Like I could operate it from this.
That's your studio.
I'd rather have a more comfortable chair. This is from the kitchen table. but if I had a Herman Miller chair, I like don't have to leave basically, except to go eat and use the restroom and sleep.
Yeah.
So the thing that I got bored, and I wanted to, something was on my mind, and so I got my passport. And people who don't travel a lot have not had the fortune or the privilege, I'll use the word, or it's just not your, maybe you have a passport and you got the money, but you just don't have reason to. Obviously, the U.S. doesn't stamp you. If you're a U.S. citizen, you don't get stamps going in and out because that's all electronic. There's certain, like if you fly to London, you're not getting a stamp. New Zealand, Australia, not getting a stamp. They're Commonwealth countries. We have a reciprocal deal. It's electronic. So I've been to places, don't have a stamp. But between visa trips, business trips, a few pleasure trips here and there, back and home, family things, but mostly business and mostly visa runs and business. In the last since I moved to China, actually I got this passport it was 9 months before because I went fall to and from. So 2 of these are.
But it looks like a cheetah right now, doesn't it?
So 5 years ago from this fall, so 4.5 years ago from right now, when I got this new passport and I got this China visa and everything, which is I got a 10-year business visa. I have 73 stamps from 8 different countries in my passport.
That's awesome.
Last 4 years. Yeah, it's a lot. And so what does that mean? Well, it means I spent a lot of money on visa runs.
And you're a well-traveled mofo.
Well, but yeah, and so the perspective, and this is what I'm getting to. So thoughts is there's the thing about, travel is there's the famous quote and then versions of it, and people requote it as if it's theirs. But the thing about travel is the best disinfectant for prejudice, about getting out there in the world and seeing stuff. And the thing is, we all have the internet, but it's in these times, I mean, that's how I travel too, is, open up the web browser if I got to go look at something or want to see something. But what I'm saying here is that it really is fortunate to be able to get out there and to have different perspective, because the things we see, the xenophobia, racism about Chinese people and this and that and the other. And if you're somebody who is, a panda slugger, not a panda hugger like me, sometimes, I'm in the middle. I go back and forth, but I don't, what I'm saying? The idea is like punching down, like cheap shots, easy shots.
When you're a slugger, it's probably for good reason.
Yeah. Usually, I save.
I hear you.
I save it. I save it up for when it's married.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is, because this is the hard thing. Because I'm not trying to, sympathy for the devil. I'm not trying to sell you that. I'm not asking anybody to give a flying F about China. No offense to all my friends and colleagues and loved ones and stuff in China. And a lot of people love and support me. And, like you got a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues. And we have a lot of time in. We got a lot of skin in the game with people there. I mean, you twice as much as me, So the reality is that, people here, I get it, where you have an uninformed, you haven't traveled, you don't have any perspective. You didn't, teach 500-600 Chinese students like I did in master's program. You didn't, your girlfriend is not of that culture. You're one, several of your business partners not of that culture. Et cetera, et cetera. There's all kinds of ways, you don't care. And some people have deep wired racism, bigotry, this and that, and the other things that, as the line says, as the man says in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, some men just can't be reached. And so some people can't be reached when it comes to this. And so my main thought is that I wrote a kind of nerdy philosophical type, could have been like a blog post on Medium, like an article on the website medium.com. Instead, I gave it away for free on Facebook. I could probably make $50 if I put it on Medium. But I wrote this thing last night, and it was kind of my, sort of deep feels thoughts about all this stuff.
Yeah.
But essentially just, I'm so horrified by, this isn't even about defending a side or the other. It's about saying that the gaps of what people know, the gaps of knowledge are freaking massive. The empathy gap. You could drive a cruise ship through it, on a creek.
You probably saw that person who had the poster at one of the anti-lockdown protests. It said, "Sacrifice the weak, reopen Tennessee." And
I'm like, you first, lady. You look like the weak to me, but.
Well, two thoughts. One, if that person is serious, that's just vile, right? And that's not what human society should not be predicated upon, this kind of Darwinian gladiatorial point of view. But I'm hoping, and in some cases, this is indeed the fact that that's a person who's satirizing the anti-lockdown protesters. There have been some things that have been posted that it turns out were sort of like there was the very shocking book or short story called A Modest Proposal, in which the suggestion was that we eat children. This was like in the 1800s, 1900s, 1800s. I'll have to get the exact date. And it wasn't serious at all, but it was basically satirizing this sort of capitalist, mill that we're all sort of like cannon fodder for. I'm mixing metaphors like that's crazy. But when I saw that, just in terms of the general lack of empathy, lack of basic human decency, the fact that, okay, let's take this person seriously as opposed to satirically.
Sure. Sure.
That's the irony there. Sacrifice the weak. That person is the weak for the folks up above who are, plotting.
Has no idea. Yeah. She's what goes. She's what goes in the government sausage that they serve.
Exactly. Now,
she has no idea where she has no concept of reality and her place in reality. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but yeah, there's just such a lack of clue that it's staggering.
Yes.
It's like you have no idea how much you do not matter to anybody you support.
Exactly. And point of view, I think, is really important. And travel, as you mentioned, is something that helps expand your point of view, is, I think, really essential. And I hope, I had a friend who just this morning on Facebook said to me privately, said, "Hey, Kev, I really appreciate the post that you've been, kicking out over the weeks and months. Is like, you really have a unique point of view." And I'm not saying this to toot my horn. I don't think I have a particularly unique point of view or particularly insightful, but I know that I do think differently than other people. And it's because I've traveled a lot and because I've lived in different cultures and seen different things. And I know that the way I think, the way I look at the world is a synthesis of these different points of view that I've been exposed to. And I'm grateful, just like you. I have my old passport from 2003 to 13 was crazy. It got the 24-page or 48-page extension. So it's super fat, like a phone book. It looks like I faked it, full of stamps, and all sorts of visas and so on. And, the one since then has mostly been ping-ponging back and forth between, mainland China, Taiwan, and the USA. But, back when I was a younger man and didn't have kids and was hopping around Europe and so forth, in addition to Asia, you really get your eyes open. And I hope, for my own children and for everybody's children, that for those of us who do value travel, for those of us who do value getting out into the world and exposing ourselves to different culture, different people, that we will still be able to do that at some time in the future in some way. I hope that does not become so difficult that it's impossible for you to practically, go somewhere with your children, to send them on a gap year to after their high school or college. I hope that there's a way that we can still facilitate the interaction of cultures and the embracing of the world, of a global point of view. I hope. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, and we've nicely moved into the new directions thing about what you're looking forward to. I co-sign that for sure. I think that for me, part of what I'll go first on this, I guess, since because I jumped in. What I'm most looking forward to, there's the personal, professional, and then of course there's for all my fellow citizens owe the earth kind of thing. What I'm hoping for the big picture, on the big picture aspect is I mean, it's tough. I don't know. I had hoped that this would lead to a reckoning. That's what I called the little piece, the long piece that I wrote that I referred to last night. I call it Reckoning. And that's one of my favorite REM albums, and that's a great title for this piece because it's about the fact that we're going to have a reckoning. And and the thing is, this is not meant to sound self-serving, but I mean, smart people are having reckonings, and sensitive people like empaths, intuitive friends. I mean, they're like, they're they're surfing the waves right now in different ways than I am. And there are people who are even more in their head than me, who of course are having a different experience, et cetera. And then there's every version of, there's all the socioeconomic aspects of all those different kinds of people and more.
Yes.
So we're all having our own version of this, but I had just, I know that a lot of people, I guess what I'm trying to get at is it seems like there probably are going to be a certain amount of people who are sort of more woke up, and I don't mean woke or awakened in a hippie way. I mean, you can take it all those ways. I mean, all those ways are actually okay. But in terms of people just, having new thoughts themselves and taking some, having some insights that make them think, oh, I should look at this a different way, or, you realize,
understanding what's important to you. And
so there's a certain amount of people that this is their big moment where they're having all those epiphany, and that's awesome. At least it's like the one positive thing that can come out of this is a reckoning and awareness. And the part that's unfortunate is seeing just how like the clueless still going to be clueless. There's still
more so.
There's defiantly so. And there's just going to be. It's sad, but I had such high hopes, Kevin. I'm not naive, but I am an optimist, as you know. And I'm an optimistic realist, and the optimist in me was hoping that a much wider swath of humanity would kind of have their little spark
moment of enlightenment
moment, and like, ooh, this is great. Like I just learned this new thing, and here's how I'm going to approach my life differently and be better, or how I'm going to help this person or help myself. And so for me, new directions on the personal, professional. The professional is basically, live long and prosper, y'all. I'm going to say more, but the Star Trek thing that kind of sums it up. Everything that I'm going to say is either live long or prosper or both. And the prosper. And
by the way, sorry to jump in, but Spock's salute is the best way to replace a handshake.
I think that's Vulcan a great one. Yeah, because no one's like the Vulcan V thing, because like even a fist bump, some people grab your fist. If you try to fist bump somebody who doesn't get it, they'll try to grab your fist and shake your fist.
You're still touching,
but if you're doing the V thing, like the Spock, and you're kind of holding it back by your shoulder, like somebody's got to get in your face. Like, people aren't going to try to scissor. It's like
hopefully not.
I'm going to avoid I'll avoid some of the better jokes I could make for the after hours.
Yes, I got a couple in my mind right now.
I saw the twinkle in your eye. That's why I jumped in. So I'm trying to make this a little bit more of a family show. I got people looking at me these days.
Right. We'll wrench it back to slightly more respectability.
We'll say the same things. We'll use some different words maybe.
Exactly.
We'll go back to metaphor. Metaphor is our friend. But wrapping up my thought and then kicking it back to you is that obviously, hoping for success with the professional, this and that. The big one is that, and I will say this, almost very few people are aware of this, but basically this TV show that I've created, been workshopping it. And as you know, because you were part of my professional writer, producer feedback loop to really just beat the hell out of it and help me make it better. It's at a point where I, couldn't be happier with it, couldn't be prouder, and
it's fantastic.
And thank you very much. And I've got that plus the show Bible, just working on all levels. And so I'm basically seeking. This comes out tomorrow, and I have a meeting, quote unquote, because it's all. That I'm going to do that while it's always virtual, but have a meeting with a manager friend next week to see if she's the right person to move forward with, or if she wants to make an intro, because she's a friend, a good professional friend and colleague, and knows me and hasn't seen it yet. But so basically, I'm getting ready to I'm going to send that. And have a call. It. So basically, I'm ready to take it because it's really aimed at Netflix, HBO, or Amazon in that order. I mean, Showtime would work, and there's other places that would work, other streamers, other premium cable, but really Netflix, HBO are kind of the flip a coin, and they're both like the perfect place. So,
and I want to give you some props here because I love this project. I won't divulge anything.
Yeah, let's not say the title or anything.
But I really love this project.
I don't have to edit this so far. Yeah.
No, you won't. Don't worry. I'll be careful. But I just want to say, you know this already, but I'll mention for the listeners who are still hanging in
If you
there
want to tell me
that
nice
when you
things,
sent me
I'll listen. I'll
when you
definitely
when you
listen.
sent me the draft, you kind of preface it and you say, "Okay, Kev, I know how you can be, right? You're very fine grained,
It's
right?"
like,
And I do when I give feedback.
don't break my spirit. It was like, give me
Yeah,
real notes, but don't break my spirit about it. That was the
my
caveat.
approach to feedback is like, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow and couldn't ever give any more feedback, I'm gonna let this person know every single thing
Yep.
that I see
And that's
that
part
needs.
of your charm.
That's my approach.
It's part of your
Yes,
special sauce.
and it's always done professionally with love, but it's still it can be.
It could
I can be very
maybe you're
thorough.
Maybe you're not in the mood for a Big Mac, and it's got that secret sauce.
Exactly. And so I read it, and I only had 2 minor notes.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And I read through it and it was just like, whoa, it really blew me away. And I could feel the energy of, maybe I'm reading into this, but the energy of the current challenging situation that you and all of us are in, fueling, I guess, the spark in this thing. And it's not it's not in any way about this crisis, but the project, but the hard times, right? That's when people oftentimes get the most creative, and I could feel that in the read. So I really just was quite impressed. And I don't want to raise expectations too much for people who might read it later and go, "Oh, it's not as good as Kevin said," but it's fantastic.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see it on the air.
This wasn't a setup. This wasn't. I appreciate that.
No.
I really appreciate that.
You know what? I hesitated to say it because it sounds like a setup, but it's not. This is my honest feedback. I love it.
Yeah, and actually, you're even being modest compared to what you told me privately. I was like, wow. Can you say that again more slowly? I'm going to work with that for a minute. Yeah, it's like I could use that kind of feedback. I'm going to replay that feedback at another time when I need it for something, but I really appreciate it. And
I wished I had wrote it.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell my manager friend, who I don't think is going to lose. If she listens to this for some reason before I talk to her on Tuesdays or call, what I'm going to tell her is like, to write I've been working on this for years. It's been through all these incarnations. I tried to do it a feature once. I'm like, that's this TV show. And I almost had a version of it late last fall, basically. But I just still wasn't quite happy 100% with it. And then, so the long and short of it is, all it took for me to write this was
a global pandemic.
Okay, 7 on the punchline. All it took for me to write this was 3 things. My dad to die last summer, for me to evacuate from a global pandemic halfway around the world from China to America, and to move to China 4 years ago in the first place. That's all I had to do to write this. Yeah.
Sorry to blow your punchline.
Dad die, evacuate from a pandemic, and move in the first place. So yeah, man. But so I'm optimistic about this, and because we talked about this in the previous one of these doohickeys here, these Fretful Laowais, that the as far as like writer, producer types, creative types, and what can you do? We can write, we can develop, you can prep some, you can kind of finance, you can raise, you can hope to raise. And again, bless Larry's heart, he's chugging away, man. He's a little engine that could. He's plugging away on that.
Our director on my favorite season.
Our fearless director, and I'm doing my part on the New Zealand side and some other stuff, but
and with our fearless producer.
But we can't. Well, but we can't shoot. We can't shoot nothing. And if you don't have anything already shot, you can't post. If you've got something in the can, then you can post, and maybe you can even release, and good for you. So the last thing I'm going to say, because I kind of went on about this, but my thoughts were, one, of course, success on projects, hoping to continue the keto. I'll mention that little mile marker in a second that's relevant for today. But really, this TV show is obviously is my other focus. And I'm hoping to get a deal because right now, they're actually hungry for content to develop because there's this opportunity, and they're doing remote writers' rooms. Writers' rooms have all moved on to Zoom now. So they're making deals via Zoom and Skype. There's
a lot going on under the surface.
So if you have the right thing, if you're somebody who's a writer and you've got something that's ready or it's close enough to ready, get on it. I mean, like, get on making it ready for what you think the new reality will be. That was the thing, Kevin, this because of our conversations. But the thing where I was with it, magically having to deal just having to think about the world post this, and when there's a vaccine, and you can travel and not worry about masks again. When that happens,
what's it going to be like?
What's it going to be like? So I said it 4 months after there's been a vaccine globally distributed.
Yes.
So people can move about, this and that, hug, screw, eat together, travel, business, whatever. You can just do the things you used to do. And so I frankly
you keep it light but authentic too.
I think people will want to see that. Thank you. Well, I think I appreciate that. I know that. Thank you. But I especially was thinking, I say this, and you know this because I say this in my show Bible, but by the time we get back to normal, by the time there's a new normal, we're going to be really, really, really sick of reality. So we're going to want a world that's a little funnier, sexier, dramatic, exciting, but a little less, oh my God, I might die if I breathe in front of the wrong person. We're going to be sick of that.
Yeah.
So in the last thing for me, I kind of hogged this segment, but I'm going to kick it to you for your last thoughts.
It's all good, man.
But my last one was simply that, I've been on this, and I'm not going to continue to talk about it incessantly. That's why I moved this to the very end as a quick reference, just because people are sick of it. I mean, people don't want to hear about your weight loss journey, and God knows people don't want to hear about keto if you're not trying to do it. If you're trying to do it or you have an issue, then you want to know all you can about it, which is why I'm making a YouTube video that will be out by the end of this weekend. I shot the whole content. I've got a bit of B-roll to do. It's already color corrected, sounds done, the whole thing. I got to do titles, some B-roll, and then I'm going to do a new intro because I was wanting to, when I recorded it, I'm sitting there in front of the thing and I'm saying, as of today, I'm 91 pounds down 5 months in. And I wanted to be able, this was 2.5 weeks ago almost that I recorded that thing. And I was going to finish, I had a window to do it, and then I got busy. I had a few good curveballs, had a project come up, things happen. So I had to put it aside, and that turned out to be great because as of today, I've officially lost 100 pounds in 5.5 months.
Amazing. And you look incredible.
Thank you, man.
I have to tell you, it's true that people generally don't want to hear anything from anybody about anything. Diet, smoking, drinking, religion,
unless
whatever.
It's their issue, they don't want to hear about it.
But all you need to do, dude, is just show up now. Because you look at you and you're like, hey, and like, Brendan, holy, what's going on, man? You look fantastic.
Thanks,
keto.
Man.
And then just let them follow up if they want. But you are a walking advertisement.
Well, I'm looking forward to having this video done because what's the sweetest part of it, and actually earlier today, because I took a picture this morning and I wasn't in the mood to try to do the recording. I wasn't configured, and you can see I need to shave and this. Today was not going to be the day that I'm going to shoot that intro. I'll try to do that tomorrow.
Sure.
And I'll be down a little more, hopefully, but
that's right. All the stubble comes off. It takes you down.
Well, kg. I'm just saying, between today and tomorrow, I shouldn't gain weight between today and tomorrow. So
I shaved for you today, by the way. So
was that?
I said I shaved for you today.
Oh, yeah, very nice, very nice, very nice. Yes.
Got a little Don Johnson.
Very
stubble,
fetching. Yes, just a little 5 o'clock.
That's in fashion.
But
Don
yes,
Johnson. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Always.
Miami Vice.
He used to live in my old building before I did. Like he lived at Pamela DeBar in my old building for years when they were together.
This is going to sound geeky, but when I first moved to LA,
Hendrix first came to LA, he stayed in that apartment. When the Sex Pistols, they stayed in that apartment and partied. And Zeppelin, Jimmy Page didn't stay there, but he spent some time in that apartment with Miss Pamela. Just
I'll bet,
18-unit building. I mean, just like one of my neighbors down the road.
Don Johnson's on my list. This is going to sound totally geeky, but when I first moved to LA, I started keeping a list of celebrities who I actually ran into in person, and he was one of them. Again, the thing is always
Don Johnson.
I never bothered anybody. I never went up for autographs or pictures or anything. I was respectful of their personal space, but I would just write down in my notebook Don Johnson and where I saw
Don
just for myself.
Gelson's.
Exactly. And
I saw Tom Cruise. I've seen Tom Cruise around Los Angeles 3 different times.
Really?
The first one was in the Whole Foods, the old Whole Foods that was in Santa Monica. I think it was on Wilshire. It was like a tiny one back when Whole Foods was like a new thing. I moved here in 2002. It was like, it was within a month of moving to Santa Monica that I saw Tom Cruise with his basket looking at bananas and a Whole Foods.
He's like, hey, I'm in LA.
And he's by himself. There's no, Xenu wasn't there with a laser gun to protect him or anything. He was just,
and that's not a euphemism, right? He actually was looking for bananas.
He was in the organic produce section of Whole Foods, and he had yellow bananas. Yes, he was sizing up the bananas to find what he liked.
Yes,
I'll leave
exactly.
that to you.
And I know it's stereotypical, but they say about celebrities, but they're always smaller in person than you imagine them to be when you
knew he was
see them on the screen.
He wasn't wearing. I mean, he may have he might have had a 1 inch lift. Yeah, I think he's
4'2"?
officially. No,
4'6".
Funny. Yeah, no, I think he's like 5'6". I think sometimes they try to put him at 5'7", but that's with like 2 inch lifts. He's like 5'5", 5'6".
Yeah.
He's not like
Prince.
Prince. Like Prince was like 5'2",
little guy,
5'2". Yeah, Prince was like a little bitty guy.
So
but he seemed cool. I mean, I didn't bother him. He sort of had that awareness. He kind of looked up and kind of gave a little nod and just a little friendly thing and like, hey, how you doing? And then kind of just kept on down the aisle. Not a big thing, It was. I mean, again, this is like This is late spring 2002, so it was a long time.
I've heard people who have worked with him say he's cool, and when you do see people, like I remember Lisa Bonet, I saw her on Third Street Promenade, and she was sitting there almost desperate for people to notice her because she was well past, her Cosby Show prime.
Her
and then, yeah, exactly. And then that sounds mean, but I love Lisa Bonet's work. The other side of the coin is sometimes you'll see somebody, you just glance at them, and they give you this look like, don't talk to me. And it's like, I'm not going to bother you. Don't worry. I'm just looking in this direction.
Who have you had that with?
The guy in LA Confidential, is it I'm forgetting his name.
Guy Pearce or Russell Crowe?
No. The old guy, the
James
chief
Cromwell.
of police who ends up. James Cromwell, yes.
Yeah,
I'm calling out James Cromwell.
Was he?
He was. I was coming out of the departures at LAX, and I come up to the curb, and he's standing there, and I'm waiting for my shuttle. And I just looked over at him, and he just gave me this scowl, and I was just like, okay, I'm just looking.
He has resting bitch face. James Cromwell has resting bitch face.
Maybe it was nothing personal.
No,
maybe I'm reading too much into it.
I worked on the general's daughter, and he was lovely, by the way. But I mean, we didn't have meaningful. I put a microphone on. I had a boom over his head and put mics on him, and he was on about, I want to say probably 2 weeks of the shoot. I did the 7 weeks in Savannah. Then they spent like 3 months in LA on stages, but I was still a Georgia-based guy then, back when I was a sound guy. But yeah, Cromwell was on that, and he was very reserved, but he was actually gregarious in context, but mostly reserved. And I noticed that, I could see that, but I noticed that it's funny you say that. I'm not trying to offend him. I'm simply saying that I noticed, because I had to pick a good moment. I was one of the two boom operators, and I had to pick the right moment where I went to wire him up, to put a wireless mic on him, which is the backup to like the big mic we're swinging on the stick. That's that you always want that big mic. We don't use the default little mics. That's not the choice, by the way. Like reality TV does that. But for movies, like movies and narrative TV, it's the big mic on the stick with the skilled professional swinging it around. That's the $8,000 mic, not the $100 thing that's on your lapel or hidden under your shirt. But you still put it on there as a backup. So I had to figure out the right moment to approach him. And so, hey, Mr. Cromwell, can we wire you up? So you'd have to either to the trailer or over behind a tent or whatever. So I had to pick my moment to like approach. And there were a few times where he just, and he had some heavy scenes too. There's a scene where he finds his daughter who's been murdered brutally.
Was still in character.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, the point is he's preparing to do those scenes. He's pretty method. So what I learned was, I'll finish this tangent that I'm on, but basically what I learned was, wire him early. And that way, but just turn it off. But as soon as he's in, figure out between his costumer and the AD. Right. Okay, so
pick your moment.
Can you get him in at least like because it was hotter than hell, so people weren't putting on their full clothes and stuff. And he's like a military guy, and he was the general. His daughter died. The general got a general's outfit, and it's like
suited and booted.
Oh my God! And so. So he was like walking around like his wife beater t-shirt that he was. So I'm like, look, as soon as he's in like his shorts and his t-shirt and his trailer, just can I wire him then? And then we'll put on the pack and flip it on just right before we go. But that way I don't have to mess
Smart.
With it. That way it's like a 5-second operation instead of 20 minutes.
Yeah.
When he's in a movie.
Yeah.
Because it could be a 10 to 20. I mean, if you're lucky, it's 5 minutes, but allow 20 kind of thing. When you're trying to hide and not have like, clothing rustle on the mic and things like that. So anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed
And I should
that.
say, I mean, in fairness, you catch me on a bad day at a bad moment. It's like, boy, what an asshole for myself. So I get it. I'm not trying to pick on celebrities here, but it's one thing also I do miss that. I always likened celebrity sightings in LA to sort of like seeing a mountain lion, right? It's rare. They tend to be kind of skittish. They really don't want to attack you. But it's kind of cool when when you do spot one, it's like, oh, hey, a mountain lion. Anyway,
well, you were
as far as
what's your new direction?
the new directions?
Yeah, so I want health and success with projects, and I hope that people have the same. Basically, that's what I want. What do you want?
In terms of things I'm looking forward to, relocating to Taiwan is a big one, and it sounds kind of nutsy boltsy, but it really is something that relates to what you were saying earlier about a moment of reckoning or a period of reckoning and trying to understand what's important to you. And we've talked about this on previous Fretful Laowai. Any given time I was thinking about, should I still be in mainland China or not? Should I move on? Where should I go? US, what have you. And there's also that inertia where you're like a frog in water that's slowly heating up and eventually boiling, and you don't realize the point at which I should get out of this, get out of this cauldron here. So, and that was kind of how things were in Beijing. And having the opportunity, I'll say, to live here now in Taipei for 5 months has permitted me to really see what life is like here in terms of the day-to-day of, I walk my kids to school now, like down the street. We walk together. I pick them up on foot. We go and get dinner at home or out or wherever. And again, we're being socially responsible, keeping distancing and so forth. But we're able to go to a local park. It's just very livable and very great for the kids. They're hunting for bugs and so forth. Stuff we could never do. Well, not never, but couldn't do as easily. It isn't like right there in Beijing, even before all of this, the way that it is here, where the city really makes a point of trying to have little green spaces here and there that surprise you and are just pleasant to coexist with. Yeah. So relocating to Taiwan, getting all the legal and logistical things figured out is going to be a pain in the butt. It's possible we might overlap each other, you and I, in August if we're back in Beijing, because that's kind of the time frame myself.
Yeah, if I don't have in to terms do remotely. So you're talking move. Have you committed? Or you announcing
move?
You've committed to move to Taipei?
Oh yeah, wow. I guess I'm announcing it here. So, like yourself, we've paid in advance on our rent in Beijing through the end of October. We've paid in advance on Claire's kindergarten in Beijing through the end of August. And apparently we're getting some refund on the school, but the apartment probably not. And we have no leverage, right? If we say we'd like a refund, they're like, no.
Stuff.
And our stuff is on the street suddenly.
Yeah, you got a big apartment. You got a big family. Having two kids, having you got a sizable family. You got tons of stuff. I mean,
I could care less about the stuff.
Your toys would fill my entire studio home office.
Yeah, that stuff fine, but I've still got like my original diplomas are there, so some legal certificates and things, hard drives. There's a lot of stuff that you could burn the clothes and the toys and the furniture, but there are certain key things that I need to. So if we do have somebody who's sending stuff back, the sort of three plans are: one, if we can all go back together, get our stuff packed, say goodbye to our friends, and then get the hell out of Dodge. That's, I guess, the first option. And hopefully if we can quarantine at home and be packing while we're quarantining at home, as opposed to in a hotel, that would be ideal. The next level is like, if I still can't go back because I'm a foreigner, Wen goes back by herself, does some bank stuff, helps coordinate workers to pack, and then we ship the stuff back. Worst case scenario is, as you were describing earlier, we get our friends in the building on a video. Hey, that's important. That's not important. You can keep those cups. We want that plate because that's a memorable thing that we got from my mom.
Exactly.
And then, they help pack it. We pay them to help coordinate / pack. Here's a chunk of money. Oh, no, we can't take it. Please take it. You're going to, believe me, you're going to want it after you get through all of our crowd. Okay, fine. And then have the stuff sent over. That's the worst case scenario, I guess, the fallback. Yeah. But the top line there is relocate. Come to Taipei, settle in here, find our own apartment, and then continue to work here on my own projects and perhaps even pick up a job, although I really would prefer not to be employed like yourself. I like sleeping with the boss. So working independently, working with Wan, my wife, is the way that we'd like to go continuing forward. And to that is the final point, is that I really want to focus on projects instead of problems.
Yes,
I'm tired. I'm tired of workflowing the virus, and I'm not trying to sound like a person. Oh, I wish this was over. We've been dealing now, you and I, for a long time, right? The China time frame plus the rest of the world time frame. It's been months.
We're beginning in January. We're everybody else. Like we were aware of it in December. I mean, we heard rumors into November. We knew about this in December. We knew what was up early January. So
we're some long haul. We're some long haul guys.
COVID OGs right here.
COVID OGs, exactly. And you deal with what you got to deal with. It's like, okay, the shit's going down. I got to deal with this for myself, for my family. Here we go, and you just do it. But there is a point where it's like, oh man, just speaking freely, I just love to not think about what's going to happen with this health aspect or with that visa aspect, and just focus on my work and my family. So the sooner. And the transition is happening now. We talked about that in terms of the day-to-day. I feel it. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, not in terms of the big picture. I still don't know what the world will be like. But for us, trying to make the best of it that we can, being able to have the problems not rule our lives, but just be maybe one aspect, and focus our lives on ourselves and on what we want to achieve. The aspirational aspects of human existence, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, I think that sounds great. And I've never been to Taiwan. We've discussed this previously. But interestingly, I have had many friends, many mainland Chinese friends say, oh, you definitely should visit. It's amazing. And then I've had people say, it's just kind of like Beijing. It's just, you'll get a little more English. And then I've had Taiwan people tell me.
Who said that?
Do you not get much English there?
No, it's not at all like Beijing.
Yeah. Well, no, then I've had Taiwan people tell me, well, most of us who are educated have pretty good English, and you'll run into even like shop owners who have pretty decent English, and it's super clean. And then, there's the political differences, which are self-explanatory. So in all in all, it's nothing like the mainland, except that geographically there's similarities and racially.
Well, again,
there are similarities.
Mainland also is a big word, right? Mainland China, there are many different. So I think it's more like certain areas of southern China, the southern mainland. So Fujian, places like that are a little more relaxed, right? A little more green. It's not really at all like Beijing. Right. And I don't say that as any. I love Beijing. But it's a very different vibe in Taipei than in Beijing. And I think just not having to, the fact that I could have my kids walk down the street and not have to worry about them getting mowed down by, a DD delivery guy who's not paying attention.
They don't drive bananas and stuff. Is it more calm and sedate, or
there are people who do.
Issue?
There are people who do drive bananas, but they stay on the road as opposed to on the sidewalk.
Okay, well that's a point to them.
That's a step up.
It's a level up right there. Keeping the car on.
But anyway, trying to get back to some semblance of a normal life is really what I'm looking at. And I have friends of mine in the U.S. on Facebook who will say, "Oh, it's so great to see you taking your kids to school," or how you guys are wearing masks, but you're still able to go out to a restaurant.
It gives people hope that one day they can do the same thing.
Exactly.
Without
and of course,
about their kids, and themselves.
Every country's on their own trajectory in terms of how they're handling this, as we mentioned before. But there is going to be, there is hope that there's going to be a resolution, and that eventually it will be something that's, even if it's still existing in certain form, the worst of it is past, and people have learned how to reconcile themselves to the reality and do the best they can with life, just like you would with anything that comes up.
Well, Kevin, I think that's a spectacular place to leave it. And Daphne, the dog, agrees. If you hear Daphne, she gets very excited. I don't know what's happening outside. She's in the other
thanking
room.
The essential workers again.
She's thanking the essential workers. She's about an hour and 13 off schedule, I think. But
dog
she does
time.
Her part. She's on dog time. She's on Daphne time. She's a very good girl. I can't fault her for that. My roommate's dog. But man, I really enjoyed this, and I hope that you, the listener, enjoyed the early show slice of life of LA until I had to shut it down because I couldn't hear Kevin over the noise of my neighbors, who are charming.
Which is unusual, right, for me. But thanks for having me again. It's great to catch up and really great to see you. You're looking fantastic, and your sound, just everything you got going on in your world, awesome.
Thanks, buddy. Well, tell Wynn and those kids I said hey, and we'll see y'all next week with another show. Thanks a lot.